Hello, my friends. It's your girl Key of Key and Mercy. I hope y'all done hit up the website, keyandmercy.com, KIANDMERCY.com, where you all can read the synopsis to the first book that is titled Mercy. You all make sure y'all liking, sharing, subscribing, clicking bells. Come on, y'all. Share, please share. If you all have that circle of friends that needs to hear anything on here, I don't care what I'm talking about these kids, these relationships, these broke down relationships I done came up out of. Thank you, Jesus. So we left off with having multiple children with multiple people out of wedlock, part 1, which was the background, and I ended that video asking the question, how was I supposed to deal with me after losing me? And I had to get me back. I literally, when I tell you, grace had to be found. Trust me, grace. Jesus. Woo. Grace is that thing that when you out there in the water and you drowning and that boat come up and all of a sudden a hand pull you into the boat. That's grace. I needed grace to show up. That's what I needed. So here is what happened out of that last relationship. We were in premarital counseling. We broke up while we were in premarital counseling. I honestly think that the counselors pretty much can gauge the compatibility level between two people. And oftentimes what it is that they'll support you in trying to work things out or work through things. But here's my thing. Because what I got out of it was that you can't make nobody love you who don't love you. And that relationship had ran its course. We gave it a good try. But there was nothing left to give. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in thinking that we can make the other person be with us, when the love for us from them just is not there. So, and I don't know, maybe somebody needs to hear that. There may be somebody out there that's fighting for a relationship and you know the other person don't want you. Let it go. It is not worth the fight. I'm just letting you know. That right there is trust me when that's lack of sleep, that's depression. That is worry. That's stress. Like to be in a relationship and you know that person don't want you. I don't even know how much clearer to make that, y'all. So, but that's where we were in premarital counseling. So much stuff came out in premarital counseling that I was like, there is no way this man loves me. So much came out, and I mean, like, I felt like I was relearning him all over again, but it was a him I just did not want. I didn't like the things that were going on behind my back. It was a lot. And even though we were being given they give you the tools to try to work things out, it was dry. There was no happiness in working through it. So some things even happened. There was a jump off while we was in premarital counseling. So it was like, there's no point in me continuing this. That's how I looked at that. And what ended up happening is the counselors and therapists they reached out to me to see how I was after what had happened between he and I. Because you had to let them know, you won't be back. We decided this is not for us. We're done, blah, blah, blah. They were kind enough to actually reach out to me, and they referred me to a separate therapist to discuss how I was coping with going back to being a single parent, how I was coping with the idea that I would be a single woman all over again, how I was coping with going from 2 incomes to now 1 with children in the house. And so, of course, I looked at it like, okay, I need to talk to somebody, because I know how I see myself right now. And so what ended up happening is that in therapy, we began to talk about me and the breakup and how I felt. And that led to me discussing past relationships. and the baggage I have been taking into those relationships. And then what ended up coming out is I had to identify the baggage that the men I was dating came into the relationship with. And I don't think we look at that. I don't think we look at baggage as two separate things. So I'm gonna tell you how this went for me and the last one, because to me that's the best example I have of having separate baggage but trying to be together. So when we got together, he had two children with two different women, and I had two children with two different men. The problem we both shared was that neither one of us were effectively co-parenting with the other two parents. So here's where this really gets funky at. He had traumatic experiences with both women. I had traumatic experiences with both men. And now we gonna come together in a relationship and have a baby, even though we have common traumatic baggage. Say it again. Common traumatic baggage. What the hell? Now y'all know, it seemed like every man I done been with, I can say I ain't got no business messing with him. Now, I ain't know no better than y'all. I ain't know no better. Don't hold it against me. Don't judge me. Don't hold it against me, y'all. But yes, so he's dealing with that coming into a relationship with me. I'm dealing with that coming into a relationship with him. And for some reason, we think it's okay for us to actually have a baby, and we gon' be the two that figure this out. F them, we gonna figure. No, because when you go back and do your accountability check, I always do your accountability check. When you go back and do your accountability check and you start realizing what it is that you need to be doing differently to help co-parent more effectively, it's not just on the outside people. You have to be responsible for what it is that you can be doing differently to try to help this along. I know. Trust me, I know. Being the bigger person is so effing overrated. It's ridiculous. But if you stick with it, it does get the job done. I hate having, I teach my kids not to say hate. And it seems like, I think this is the second video I ought to say hate in. I hate having to be the bigger person. But if it leads to the good of something else, then sometimes you just don't have a choice, y'all. And in this case, you have kids involved. So that's a whole nother video. Y'all got to work on y'all got to work on co-parenting a little bit better. I know it's some of y'all out there. I hate him, I hate her. What about the kid? Just saying. So once I started identifying in therapy the baggage for the men that I was dating, which I had never even looked at, like, then she was hitting me over here hard with them questions, and the reality of everything just had me sitting there like, ooh, I didn't put myself through a lot. And of course, it came too late. I wasn't identifying any of this. So now, once I'm in therapy and I'm identifying it, it's like, oh my God, I put myself through all of that. Notice how I keep saying I did this to myself, I did that. One of my biggest problems that was pointed out in therapy is that I blame myself for everything. And I have been doing that since I was younger. I felt like everything I went through was my fault. And I think that as a child, you take ownership of your parents' mistakes, or how your parents treat things, or the things that go wrong for your parents. As a child, you tend to take ownership and feel as though some of it could possibly be your fault. Or as a child, you're being made to feel as though some of the things that go wrong are your fault. And what I came to understand in therapy, that the one thing that I was told in therapy that I had never even been told before, never heard it or anything, is that nothing that went wrong in my life was my fault. I couldn't even find it in me to dispute what was said. It was more of a relief to hear that. And it was like, you honestly think you could have controlled everything that went wrong in your life? I had never looked at it that way. I was so used to blaming myself for everything. I had never looked at the fact that you weren't gonna be able to control that. That's not your fault. I never looked at it that way. I also learned that listen to other people blame me for my own. I don't know who does that. People blame you for your own circumstances, and then you internalize it. Well, they saying it's my fault. I got all these kids with these different men, and I shouldn't have did this, and I shouldn't have. This still your life. This your life. I had became ashamed of my kids. They are not looking at them like they blessings from God, even though they were. My kids saved me in so many instances. They weathered the storm for me. Some days my kids was my shelter. I told you I didn't grow up with hugs, kisses, and all that other stuff. No. When I started birthing children is when hugs and kisses came. When I started birthing children is when I got the I love yous. So because I wasn't seeing my kids as a blessing, it was almost as if I wasn't giving them fully what they need. Because I wasn't seeing myself as a mother anymore. That it was almost like how can you keep allowing yourself to be in these bad relationships and then call yourself a mother? That's the way I was looking at myself. And at the end of the day, one shouldn't have had anything to do with the other, but I didn't understand that. Just because I allowed a man, the wrong man, to choose me doesn't mean that I had to dumb down my motherhood. And I had to get all of that. And when I tell you, I had to learn me all over again. And it started with therapy. I mean, it's crazy too, y'all. My kids are huggers. That was never me. I can honestly say that was never me. My kids are huggers though. So therapy taught me, and this was really big for me. Therapy taught me that I'm human. I'm human. And humans make mistakes. You're supposed to learn from them and understand that troubles come and troubles go. Learn from your mistakes. Therapy taught me I'm human. My children taught me that I am loved. I had allowed people who were not deserving of me to choose me, and I was okay with it, but I wasn't really okay. I had to learn that I was beautiful inside and out, and that my love life should not determine what I look like from day to day. Some of us go through horrible breakups and we start to look like what led up to the breakup. That's not a good look for anybody. So let me tell y'all what this looked like. Because some of y'all sitting there like, how you look like what the breakup led up to. So you start looking like the lies that's being told. You start looking like the sleepless nights. Like you start looking like you don't sleep. You start looking like you done sat up all night crying. You start looking like don't nobody want you. So you don't care anymore. You get to the point where to your own self, you unrecognizable. Everything that leads up to you breaking up with that person is the look you start to take on. We have to understand that things that drive us internally can be manifested externally. People can actually look at you and know something ain't right in your house. When you get to looking like you hate being in the house with that person, and some of y'all sitting there like, how do you look like you hate being in? If you two together look distant in front of people, meaning y'all have company, but it's obvious that y'all ain't together. Like, it's obvious he ain't speaking to her, she ain't speaking to him. We ain't gonna sit here and act like I'm the only person that went through this type of stuff. My granny always told me that you should never look like what you're going through. And I did go through that. I allowed years of bad relationships to like drain my soul dry. I looked what it said, dry souls leads to brittleness, criticalness, and an expectation of pain in the midst. You expect pain in the midst of joy. I was looking for happy, and you telling me joy was somewhere in there? Nah, baby. But I was suffering from some brittleness because I was looking rough. You get to a place where you don't care that the other person don't want you no more. Y'all just there. That is ridiculous. So as I began putting me back together, I learned I ain't half bad. I actually think I might be easy on the ass. You know, I didn't realize that if I clean myself up, I don't look that bad. I was a little shocked. Yeah. I had to learn some things about me all over again when I relearned me. Because I had to have some type of look to get the ninjas I wasn't supposed to be with. But when you start taking on a completely different look in that relationship, you got to do some self-evaluate. And after you self-evaluate, go back and evaluate that relationship. I also had to learn that I'm worth loving. Now, I know some of y'all sitting here like, it took for somebody to actually tell you that. Hell yeah. You don't understand what it's like to go through relationships where you're being I'm a child of God, and you mishandling me. You going through relationships where people are mishandling you. You're giving this person a child, and they can't even respect you no more for that. These are not things that were easy for me to bounce back from. You tested my womanhood. You tested my motherhood. I had to get all of that back. I learned that the number of men I had children with do not define my education. One did not have nothing to do with the other. But because I didn't understand that, I actually allowed the relationship to stop me from moving forward in my education. I had to understand that me having multiple children with multiple men, it didn't affect my ability to be a good wife or a good mother. I didn't understand that though. I allowed it to affect these things. And in me allowing it to affect me, I allowed it to affect relationships I had with other people. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that's helping somebody, because somebody in here is being affected by relationships, bad relationships that they are being in and out of, and you're allowing it to affect relationships that you actually need to have with certain other people. And I'm not talking about the opposite sex. I'm not saying you need to go out here and find somebody else. I'm saying that I actually had people in the church that were reaching for me, and because I feared them being critical of what I was going through, I wasn't allowing what they was trying to give me to touch me. And when I finally came out of that, there were times where people would go to try to help me, and I would say, no, I think we're good. And I had someone tell me, I had somebody tell me, she said, you're so used to people being critical of you that you don't know how to receive a gift. I'm sorry, y'all. It hit me like that when she said I'm sorry. But I just, let me tell y'all something. Learning me all over again has been the best self-fulfilling experience I've ever endured. If you have endured any of these things and you have yet to relearn you, I encourage you to overcome what was and sit with me on the side of what's to come. That's it. If no one else has told you today, let me lean in so y'all can see me. I'm going to tell you, I love you. You are a remarkable individual, and you have your whole life ahead of you. Don't let your past stop you from what it is that God has set forward for you to do. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, we're going to talk about some, I encourage people to get, I'm being completely honest, I encourage people to actually get therapy. When I was growing up, it was, people talked against therapy. They felt as though, you don't need therapy, you talk to your family. Well, what happens if your family is the reason why you need to be in therapy? So, if you feel the need to talk to a medical professional, meaning a therapist, a counselor, somewhere along those lines, I would advise you to talk to them. This is something for those of you who are working and have insurance. On the back of your car, it speaks to that. Make the call, do the inquiry, find you a therapist near you, especially if you've gone through something, these relationships where you've been physically, mentally, emotionally abused. I would advise you to seek out some therapy. I don't think that I could have put me back together by myself without God and Him speaking through somebody. So let's talk about judgment and these naysayers. I'm sorry, y'all. It's hot. I had to make sure I brought something in here with some ice in it. I think that's strawberry lemonade. It's everything. So one of the biggest things that people complain about, and I'm sure if you got a few kids, people that ask you this too, their biggest complaint was why wasn't no birth control. So, there were a few different instances that was going on with each of my kids, which is probably why they're so spaced out. So with the first one, we planned her. Me and that D-boy planned to have a baby. He was like, you gonna have my baby? I was like, yeah. He was like, all right, we did it. And then the relationship was effed up. So this is how it went. Just be honest with y'all. And then the second one, my middle daughter, I was actually on birth control, but I was also going through a series of tests for migraines, which is something I've suffered with for years. Right now they have me on a regimen. I know one of the videos that we discussed, and we were doing our highs and lows when I was talking to the youth, and I spoke to me having to go to the doctor. So they came up with a regimen because what they have been saying for the longest is that I had really bad sinusitis. I don't know if any of you are familiar with sinusitis. It is so painful. But I'll have to describe all of that to you guys in another video. But so what ended up happening is in the midst of me, so I'm dating my middle daughter's father, and I'm getting all these tests, different tests and everything done. And my OB-GYN is wondering if the birth control is contributing to the migraines. So my OB-GYN and the primary get to talking back and forth and everything. I become a test dummy for birth control. They switching birth controls out like 41 North. And all of a sudden they were just like, just take her off of them completely and let's see if this works. They took them off. I got pregnant. My last daughter, I had lost my job, like I told you guys about in the other video. And I'm sorry, but I didn't have money for that prescription. I had lost my job. They had canceled my benefits. That was a horrible experience. The job canceled my benefits while I was on medical leave for the accident that happened at work. Ain't that some stuff? They canceled my benefits. I ended up getting the surgery done on my jaw and everything, but I still didn't have no benefit. My auntie ended up having to pay for that out of her pocket. She ended up charging it on her credit card. That was a horrific time, y'all. And the prescription for the birth control just was not going to happen because I wasn't even getting unemployment. I had absolutely nothing behind that for a long time. And so then the question came, they don't know how to strap up? I know I ain't the only one out here who done thought they was the only one, and he telling you as he is, and y'all loving on each other, and y'all want to feel each other. I know I ain't the only one out here, y'all. Come on now. Judge not. And that's really how that went. I can't even put that no other way. That's me just being raw as hell right now. So that's how that came about. And I guess the reason why they are so spaced out is because at different times I ended up coming off birth control because of the situation I was in. That's crazy. That's crazy. But I mean, I look at it like this. If it weren't in God's plans, they wouldn't be here. My kids are like night, day, and the final hour. They are 3 completely different sets of personalities. And that Gemini got about 12 by herself. Yeah, I said it. So they are a handful to deal with, but they huggers. They're mine. The oldest one, she just hugs. I could be watching a movie, she just come up and hug me. The little one is full of hugs, kisses. She write, I love you everywhere. There's colored pictures everywhere. She draws on everything. There's colored pictures. I love you, mommy. I love you, mommy. That Gemini, though, you got to let her know you love her. Because she might just suffocate you in your sleep if she don't know it. So let me stop talking about her. That's my little ride or die, y'all. When I tell y'all she don't suffer from middle child syndrome, she has too much personality and she thinks too much of herself to suffer from middle child syndrome. She told my granny the other day. My granny slapped on her booty, said, "Get on out of here, Pooter." She looked at my granny. She got the shaking her little butt. She said, "Granny, I think I'm the sugar honey iced tea." So get out my grandma's kitchen. But they my babies. They here. Birth control was not in the picture. It wasn't in the plan. I wasn't using condoms. It is what it is. They're here. Another big thing that was going on is that a lot of people wanted to scrutinize me for my decision to allow my children to see their fathers despite any assistance I might have been getting from their fathers. I don't regret the decision to allow my kids to see their fathers. I mean, most people looked at it like, well, that's the reason why you're going through what you're going through. Had you just raised them on your own, you wouldn't be going through that. Had I not endured any of this, I wouldn't have a testimony that carries enough depth to reach at least one. I tell y'all all the time, I'm just looking to reach one. If one person can hear my testimony and understand that I came out of it and they can too, I've done a service. I mean, God then brought me through it. Come on now. I can't change my past, but I can turn it around for good. Don't get it twisted. So on top of me gradually getting lost within me, I had to deal with the naysayers. Y'all, let me turn my little air thing this way. There we go. It's like 90-something degrees outside, and it just seemed like, I don't care where I go, I'm like, ain't no air. They like the air. Oh, it's just hot. Oh, okay. So on top of me gradually getting lost within me, I had to deal with the naysayers. And these were people that were naysayers usually be the people closest to you, don't they? I had people telling my testimony who knew absolutely nothing about it. They were talking about my circumstances, but not even being knowledgeable of who I networked with. They say it's like 6 degrees of separation. For me, it was like 3. And I say that because I was a bartender. Like, how you think you talking to people and things not going to get back to me? When you're a bartender, and bartenders know how this go, when you in that field, you become known to them and they become known to you. So it's almost like, depending on the type of bartender you are, your name can carry some weight. And I think that a lot of people that were around me in my immediate circle didn't understand how much weight that carried. And so what ended up happening one time is that I had somebody come into my bar, and I had never seen this man a day in my life. He comes into the bar that I'm working at, and you know, when people come in and patronize a bar, you're talking to these people, or at least I did. This is what people come in for. They're looking for conversation. Most of the bars that I worked in were like Cheers. You knew everybody that came through the door, and they knew you. It was a good thing. So this guy that came in particular on Saturdays, Friday nights and Saturday nights were like the nights that you had different people that were coming in, because it was more of a club setting versus you just looking at regulars on a Saturday during the day. And as people are talking to me and talking about me and everybody's talking loud and everything, and he's like, so you Key? And I'm talking mess. I'm like, the one and only, what you need, babe? And he like, oh, okay. I didn't know that was you. And I was like, I know you. And he was like, well, we don't know each other personally. I know of you. So now I'm sitting here like, okay, so maybe one of the customers, you know, then I go and I drink with Keith. And he was like, no. So my boy so-and-so is dating such and such is friends with so-and-so. And they was all talking about what you was going through with dude. Be careful who y'all talk about and who y'all talk about that person with. Because the people that he named, I would have never thought in a million years that they even had my business coming out their mouth. And the crazy part about it is, all they knew of a story. Nobody had talked to me to hear what had happened. But again, there go my name out in the streets. So, I mean, my circumstances have always humbled me. So, people usually made my issues seem bigger than they were sometimes. I don't know how many of you all have dealt with that, and they get back to you and you be sitting there like, dang, it went down like that, huh? It didn't go down nowhere near that. So, I believe when people talk like they know you better than you know yourself, I just figure let them talk. Arguing means that you end up explaining yourself to them just to defend what it is that they sitting here saying. But this is their perception of you. The only person you need to explain yourself to is God himself. I mean, so it had got to a point where, like, I couldn't even, like, vent. Like, without getting ridiculed. The conversation would always turn into how I lay down 3 different men and got 3 different kids and they ain't taking care of them. This would be done amongst mixed company. One thing I don't do is argue facts. So when someone says, yeah, but you got 3 baby daddies and ain't none of them helping you, all I can do is excuse myself. I mean, you're right, they're not. And you all have a good night. And I exit stage left. I mean, so I'm not going to argue what I've already had to face as my own truth. But we not finna sit here and keep bouncing it between walls either. So, I mean, I dealt with the issue of trying to have a lasting relationship with a man that seemed like he might have already had his stuff together. Maybe he was a little more organized at life. He didn't come with as much baggage. But it seemed like that was kind of a far reach as far as me actually thinking that I would be accepting to one of those men, being that I had 3 kids by 3 different men. And they weren't playing fair. I mean, we broke up because you cheated. And here you are upset because I'm out with somebody else. I just had to deal with you and 5, 6 other people. That's not right. So, I mean, I think it's too many bands in the world today. And y'all know what I'm, BANs. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's too many of them in the world today. Boo-boo. If y'all broke up and you knew you was cheating on her, don't slash her tires. Don't bust her windows. Don't snatch her hair out. Ain't no man got his right putting his hands on no woman who decides she tired of you cheating. Come on now. Y'all got to stop. When a woman's... I know he ain't sugar, honey, iced tea, but he said when a woman's fed up, there's nothing you can do about that. Y'all can't walk around here acting that way when we pretty much done. Come on now. You want clowning to be with me, don't clown after me. I tried my best to stay in church despite my circumstances, but I became real familiar with church hurt. Y'all gonna see a video on that because some things went down in the church house I would never expected to be going down in the church house. I was talked about for coming to church pregnant without a ring on my finger. I'm trying to figure something out though. If he does marry me, does that make him any less of a narcissist? And are we okay with me adding to the divorce rate? Because it didn't last in none of these relationships. So does putting a ring on a finger and marrying somebody because they're pregnant, does that really make for a healthy relationship? People have to understand the expectations that they put on people. If you're a parent who out here forcing your child into marriage with somebody because they have a child with that person or because that person is pregnant, I would say, as a parent, try to get to know how your child or your children are feeling about the relationship and where you think it may be going. But don't force them into a marriage just because you feel as though they need to be married. And I listen to the people in the church. Them 3 divorces. I was often referred to as the young mother in the church. I was placed with the kids' activities all the time. I guess they figure I related better to the kids. There was one time I was at a fundraiser and they were all going around the table and they were talking about their accomplishments, and I was trying to be more into the dry catered chicken breast than the conversation. And as I'm upset that the chicken breast and the potatoes was that dry, I'm looking for the gravy and somebody say, I heard your oldest daughter is back home. And the little man on my shoulder was like, oh, he talking to you. The little dude on my shoulder say the stuff that I can't say. Mercy got one of them in the book, y'all. So I nodded while chewing as the person went on to say, well, that's good. She should be with you anyway and not other people. I grabbed my water. I tried to get down the tough chicken breast. And as I was taking that really hard swallow, I noticed that everybody at the table was quiet and listening. I guess they deemed that to be my accomplishment. Your daughter back home with you? Good. She shouldn't have never left. Now here's what I have to say about that. And those of you who have already saw the other video where I was speaking about the young man that the police were looking for, you have to be mindful of things you do not know. And when you talk about people and their kids being raised by other people, here's what I want you to understand when you go to open your mouth and comment on it. Do you know what the driver was in that decision? Now I'm going to give y'all an example as to why you don't do this kind of stuff. And I'm going to use me as an example. And for some of y'all, this is probably the first time y'all going to hear me say this. When I made the decision to have my daughter go and live with someone else, I had already had my 3rd child and I had already attempted suicide twice. I was at an all-time low in my life and I saw no way out of it. So for this person to sit here and tell me my daughter should have been at home with me, in my mind, I looked at it like I was unstable. There's no way I was going to be able to deal with her teenage wrath and pick myself back up. So when you all don't know what it took for somebody to make that decision, I mean, you have to keep in mind, I ended up with my granny because my mama a drug addict. Nobody said she need to be living with her mama, blah, blah. I mean, well, they said that, but they felt as though my mama having to be responsible for her kids would fix things. She's a drug addict. Most of them forget they got kids. Come on now. So, but yeah, I went through that. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the time. I went through that, and my advice to you all who are dealing with naysayers is understand that them naysayers should not be affecting your household or the things that you have going on in your household. I understand it's hard because they're talking about you, but I'm going to tell you something. I love me, and that's really all that matters. God got me. I don't have to talk to everybody. I talk to him. He ain't never went nowhere. But I encourage you all, because naysayers are everywhere. And a lot of the time they're talking about you because they don't know nothing really about you. Now, if you somebody that's giving them all your business, then understand you're welcoming that. I'd advise you not to. Your best bet is to find you some paper and start writing and stay in prayer with God. You can tell him anything. I talk to him. That's my daddy. I talk to him all the time. I'm not perfect. I don't want nobody to be out here talking about some she a Bible thumper. She thinks she a Christian, but then she be kicking it with her family. I do kick it with my family. They crazy. I do kick it with my family. But at the same time, if anybody know me, you know I'm a child of God first. And what I think about a naysayer is nothing. If I wanted to have a relationship with a man, what I just got, and I'm gonna get up off of here. What I just got from a man was, I was gonna shoot my shot, but people were saying how angry and mean you are and all this other stuff, and I'm sitting here like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah, but I mean, now that I'm you know, listening to you and everything, I wished I'd have shot my shot when I thought I should. Even when you're oblivious to it, people are talking about you. I had somebody say that I'm mean, I got a slick mouth, I'm always telling people about themselves and everything. I shouldn't have to hear that. If something comes out my mouth and you feel some type of way about it, my advice to you is have a conversation about it with me then. It does no good to go behind my back and say how you feel about a conversation. And then too, you might want to ask yourself where I got the information from. It's a whole lot of people out here trying to sabotage relationships. That's in church hurt. Y'all, y'all, when I come through with church hurt, y'all gonna be sitting there like, oh my goodness. I learned that in church. I had to learn that women, this is women. Women did not like me because of the way I was received by other people. I'm in the church and they talking about me because other people in the church are utilizing my gifts. Understand, I was allowing men to utilize my gifts, not understanding how to use my gifts. But since I've been single, I done dove deep into my gifts. I understand my gifts clearly now. Not nan ninja gonna ever be able to use them again. Do you hear me? But at the same time, I'm in the church and I'm working in the church. I believe they call it serving. So if I'm serving in the church, I wasn't understanding what the problem was. If the pastor asked me to go and sit on a board meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, I felt obliged. I will definitely go. If another ministry feels like, can you just sit in on our meeting and just listen to a few of the things that we're going to go over and let us know what you suggest, I feel obliged. For you to sit here and say that you don't care for me because I think I'm perfect. And when it got back to me, I was like, do they know what my testimony looked like? You don't even know me. I didn't hear 4 women in the last year tell me, you think you're perfect. Wayne, are you serious? Girl, I don't think people who perfect try to commit suicide. And the way I see it, I didn't see anything perfect. I already know what it is, though. I don't look like my situation no more. So people assume it's fine. It ain't fine. God done gave me a whole new set of circumstances. I wasn't ready. But, like I had to just tell somebody at a family gathering, why you come over here with heels on? You know what my response was? Because when you look good, you feel good. Know it. I'll talk to y'all next video.